Stuart and Stephen. So Stuart, who's the Associate Planning Director, and Stuart, Project Director, both from L&Q, going to present on phase one. We've got about 10 minutes for this, so I'll hand straight over to try and keep us on track again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gareth. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Can you see me even? It's got dark since I've been sitting here.
Yeah.
It's Steve Sage. I'll just provide, or I've been asked to provide an update on the phase one open space areas and the highway infrastructure works that are currently under construction. I'll then intend to respond to some questions that I've been sent from the community via John London today and over the last few days. So starting with the open space areas, specifically the Northern Greenway, which incorporates two of the play areas, Leap 1 and 2, and the water park. All the tree, hedgerow and native woodland planting works are complete throughout. So in total over this area, we have planted over 300 standard trees, 10,000 woodland whips, and 300 metres of formal hedgerow. We have in excess of 50,000 marginal shallow water and aquatics to plant in the water park, and they will be going in during May and June when the water temperatures should be suitable. We have started clearance of the self-set vegetation within the Greenway ditch and the margins of the lakes. This is ongoing, and we will complete that with a fair wind next week. Following that, we will start preparation of the soil throughout and then subsequent seeding. We've got 23 acres of Greenway and water park to seed, but we do intend to complete that by the end of May. This is subject to good weather conditions, but we are hopeful that we can do that and then look to open up the Greenway and the water park for use by the public in early summer. We did open up the link, the Leisure Route footpath, cycling footpath, through the Greenway from Wellington Road to the Kingfisher Pond in March. That was following completion of the highway footpath link between David Wilson Homes and Barrett Homes. These timescales that I've just mentioned are consistent with what I have advised previously at the forums. So moving on to the main infrastructure works. Following completion of the frontage house building on Stirling Road by Bovis, on Wellington Road by David Wilson Homes, and on Eagle Way and the Busway by Taylor Wimpey, the first quarter of this year we've constructed in excess of 300 metres of footpath and future on-road cycleway. We've carried out highway planting along Stirling Road and Wellington Road, and again subject to completion of further frontage house building works by Taylor Wimpey on Eagle Way and by David Wilson Homes on Wellington Road and Eagle Way. We expect to construct a further 200 metres in the second quarter of this year. So that's kind of a brief update of where we are with the ongoing open space works and highway infrastructure works. So I will move on to questions that have been sent by members of the community. So first of all, say thank you very much for your questions. I am conscious of time, but some of these questions are quite detailed. I'll hopefully provide a sufficient detailed response. But again, if I don't get to cover everything, there was an email that came in late this afternoon, which I've not had a chance to look at from John, with some one-line questions on them. Please contact me directly outside the forum. So I'm going to start with the water park, and there's a question about when the path around the lake between Linden, Stirling Road and the Busway will be officially opened. What's holding this up? It looks complete. People are already using it by going around the fencing near the bridleway. Well, in accordance with my update that I've just given, we're intending to open this up in the Greenway and the water park in early summer. People should not really be walking around there at this time, so if I could please ask that people avoid the temptation to walk through there. Will this lake have water access for recreational use? Well, part of the approved landscape scheme requires sections of the lake margins to be opened up, and people will be able to access the water's edge. There's also some accessible platforms built out of timber over the water that people will be able to walk into and sort of dip their feet in the water. However, currently there are no plans for any recreational use of the lakes for instance, the examples I've been given are kayaking even, paddleboarding and open water swimming. I believe, however, these types of recreational use are being considered for the attenuation lakes within the phase 2 development. But maybe Homes England would like to comment on that when they present. Pioneer Park, quality of concrete blocks, and this is on the two sides of the informal MUGA, which has been raised before. I'll just reiterate that the types of blocks that we have installed around the two boundaries of the MUGA. They're a proprietary concrete block called a duo block. They are as specified by the landscape architect for the park. The architect was Randall Thorpe. They have been approved through reserve matters planning submissions. I can see from the questions that are coming in that people are comparing these blocks to the precast concrete walls, the white concrete walls that we installed at the Green. However, please be reminded these areas were designed by different architects and obviously have different uses. ROSPA, who for those who don't know, the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents, would have been consulted by Randall Thorpe, the architect, at the design stage. Also, following completion of the installation of the park, ROSPA have inspected or carried out a safety inspection. They haven't raised any significant issues during that inspection. What I will do, I will ask Randall Thorpe to provide a statement regarding their thought process and the concept behind using these duo blocks at the MUGA, and I will provide this to the community. Any issues regarding spalling of these concrete blocks, they are being addressed with the contractor and with the manufacturer. So moving on to the next questions. Cars frequently parking along Villa Road, blocking visibility into the Pioneer Park. Children frequently run out of the road from the path, which then visibility is perfect. This is not a problem, as cars can anticipate this, however, not when cars are parked. Villa Road is, I believe, it's a private drive access, and I do need to get Taylor Wimpey involved in this, but I propose that I will make contact with the resident who sent this query in. I do have the email address within the next week. Another question regarding planting being destroyed behind the MUGA by children running across it to retrieve balls. Can we do something put in place that protects the planting while it matures? Yeah, again, I think I know what you're talking about, but I will make contact, make sure I know exactly where that is, and then see if there's anything that can be done in the interim. Another question regarding the silver birch trees at the Pioneer Park. When are they going to be replaced? Well, any failed silver birch trees that we identified at the end of the last growing season in 2020, they were replaced at the end of 2020 during November, December. We will inspect them again at the end of this growing season, and again, if any have failed, they'll be replaced during the coming 2021-2022 planting season. Just please bear in mind that trees and plants, they do fail, and generally the density of planting that we spec at design stage does anticipate failures, but that's not to say we won't replant when things do fail, because we will. Question regarding the wildflower, also on the Pioneer Park. It has been cut this year. The next cut will be in autumn, because that's how you maintain wildflower. We'll spot spray out any broadleaf weeds that were in there, but mentioned previously, these areas do take some years to establish. This will also be true throughout the Greenway and the water park, which these are predominantly wildflower mixes, so they will look quite untidy to begin with, but they will eventually come through as sort of wildflower meadows. For the amenity grasses, again, we're just coming into the maintenance of the growing season, so the maintenance will be stepped up from here on out. Again, for the amenity grasses, any bare areas will be seeded or overseeded during April and May. Fertilisers will be applied throughout, and when appropriate, we will provide a selective herbicide, but generally the weeds will be controlled through cutting on a fortnightly basis. Still on the Pioneer Park, someone has asked to explain what the bare strips are of land across the frontage of the park towards Villa Road. This has just simply been missed by the contractor when he carried out the initial seeding works. But again, these areas will be sprayed off and they will be seeded before the end of May. Ditch in the Greenway adjacent to Pioneer Park. This is a question regarding clearing of weeds and plants within the ditch and litter and garbage by the ditch. Who is responsible for its maintenance? Is it L&Q? Yes, it is. We asked why are we neglecting it. I promise you we're not neglecting it. We have finished the clearance of the reed mace this week along that ditch section. We did do a litter pick a couple of weeks ago, and this area was identified to be litter picked, but if there's still debris and rubbish in there, we will get it removed. Question regarding the quality of the topsoil in the Pioneer Park. A lot of rubble. Yeah, we did do a pick when we seeded it. Again, during the maintenance period, we'll pick any deleterious materials that are in there. The topsoil that we have used is as dug topsoil from the original golf course. But as previously mentioned, the majority of the grasses throughout the Pioneer Park, throughout the water park and throughout the greenways are wildflower mixes. It is worth making this point that these are supposed to be sown in impoverished soil. Good quality topsoil will only allow the grasses to outcompete the wildflowers, so we cannot be used. And I'm not suggesting that there should be any brick asphalt or in the soil, and where this is, or where it occurs, when it raises to the surface, we will be removing it. Question about pedestrian crossings in general. Again, I think I mentioned this last time, there's only a controlled zebra crossing at Pathfinder Way. There are no controlled zebra crossings planned for Stirling Road. At the designated temporary crossing points that we have in Stirling Road, or further down Stirling Road, we installed them to safeguard children walking from the Lindy development to the secondary school, because they had no choice but to cross Stirling Road at that time. It is not usual to have controlled zebra crossing points throughout any sort of housing developments. Specifically at the busway, when this becomes operational in the permanent scheme, there will be traffic lights controlling the traffic at this junction. So the buses will be given the right of way. This will also control pedestrians crossing at this junction. This is the junction of Stirling Road and the busway in the permanent state. As it currently stands, we do not intend to install a temporary designated pedestrian crossing point at this location. There was quite a long question came in regarding leaps and parks generally. The resident that sent this in today, he doesn't like the play equipment that's been provided for the Pioneer Park or the two leaps that are located in the Northern Greenway. He's concerned that the areas do not cater sufficiently for toddlers, and the water play pump constructed in the leap opposite Linden is dangerous, as are the boulders installed in the sand area at Pioneer Park. I'm sorry that you don't like the play equipment provided. I would hope that others do. I can say that the design and layout of the play areas, including the Pioneer Park, was based on the Play England publication, Designed for Play. It was a guide to creating successful play spaces. There was an extensive consultation period prior to finalising the designs. These consultees included South Cambs, people from the Planning, Urban Design and Landscape Departments, a Cambridge Quality Panel, the Long-Stanton Youth Council, and at the time, the residents of Northstowe. I can also say that the individual items of play equipment provided are of a high quality. All the consultation documents are on the SCDC website, should anyone wish to view them. Sorry, that's my dog barking, somebody must be at the door. There was a question generally regarding parking and parking in future cycle lanes, which I think was also mentioned earlier. Again, as mentioned previously, the development, it is a work in progress, and the timescales for delivery of the remaining infrastructure is dependent purely on the progress of the house building. In the current circumstances, unfortunately, there's no real pragmatic solution to stopping residents parking in the on-road cycle lanes where they're constructed. Normally, there is a shared cycleway footpath designed with a verge and maybe and a curb up stand providing separation from the road. This deters parking. But on this development, I'm afraid the cycleways have been designed as on road with a flush curb separation. This will provide its benefits in future, certainly for cyclists, but it does mean that it's easy for vehicles to park on them. The situation will improve when there's full connectivity of cycle lanes around the development. At the moment, there isn't, and circumstances will allow for them to be topped out with a red surface course, with cycle symbols and signs displayed. Certainly when the roads, the footpaths and the cycleways become public highway, driving and parking in these cycle lanes will become an offence and it will be enforceable. In the interim, I would ask all residents please to use your dedicated driveways, carports, parking spaces provided by the house builders. And where this isn't possible, please be considerate when parking to other road users, pedestrians and cyclists. they're the questions I had, Gareth.
Steve, that's really
response.
that's really helpful. You're a popular man because we do have more questions.
Let me just try and see if I can get back onto here.
That's fine. So I'm just going to try and take us through those quite quickly.
Okay.
So before I go into the ones I'm going to ask you to answer, there is a question from Graham, the chair of Northstowe Cricket Club, around conversations and possibility of using temporary use of part of the large area near Greenway as a temporary pitch. I'm actually going to kind of park that one. I'm just going to ask Ellen in the communities team at South Cambs, possibly in liaison with you to go back directly, because just for time, if that's okay. A couple of questions from Facebook. Is L&Q planning to clear any of the self-set scrub in Kingfisher Pond?
No.
Okay. And the other question from Facebook is, walked past the swale by Pioneer Park the day before yesterday. It was quite smelly. Is there any reason for that?
I think it is water just laying in the base of the ditch. We've removed the reed mace and they've got quite fibrous rhizomes. So when you remove them, they will give off an odour, but that should subside over the next few days or weeks. Hopefully the former.
Okay, so I'm just going to the Zoom questions now. So can we have some specifics on how many weeks are needed between seeding and space to be able to, and space being able to open, i.e. when will open spaces really be open?
I'm not trying to avoid giving you a specific date, but it is difficult to give a specific date because it really does depend on the weather conditions. I would expect kind of a 4 to 6 week period for the first flush and some establishment of the grass. Ideally, we'd like to give it a first cut, but this is wildflower, so that's probably not necessary. If I'm really pushed, and please don't hold me to this, I would hope to have the areas opened up certainly by the end of June.
Thanks, Steve.
If I can do it sooner, I will. There's absolutely no reason for us to keep them closed other than to try and keep people off the grass.
Thank you. I'm going to keep whizzing through these. And when will the water park pathways be opened?
That's early summer. It's the same date. Yeah.
Thank you. Has the park been inspected for compliance with safety standards and specifications?
The water park or the Pioneer Park?
It says the park, so I don't know. What I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to mark that one as answered, and if the person who posed that one could just come back in with whether that's Pioneer or the water park, that'd be really helpful.
Just the Pioneer Park has been inspected by ROSPA, yes, for safety standards.
Brilliant. Well, I'll put
the
that
water park hasn't.
Great. Why is the phase 1 lake work happening now, well into bird breeding season?
Yeah, it's obviously would have preferred not to, but there was a very short window of opportunity actually to try and complete these clearance works between the planting works. Well, firstly the hard landscaping works, then the planting works, which ended sort of January, February time. And then you can see that the equipment we're actually using or having to use to clear this reed mace is quite large. So we need the ground conditions to be reasonably dry as well. So we have nibbled into the bird nesting season. We do have 2 ecologists on site, the watching brief. If they come across a nest, and we have come across a few nests, we will leave the relevant clearances around the nest. Thanks,
Steve. Just 2 or 3 more quick questions at the end. Can we have the temporary zebra crossings repainted, as we're not getting permanent ones?
Yes, we can. I'm always a bit reluctant to kind of put in these temporary pedestrian crossings, though they do have their use, but it does need to be recognised that they are not controlled zebra crossings. Pedestrians don't have the right of way in these. They are there to try and slow vehicles down and trying to funnel people into certain areas for crossing. But we just got to be careful on how many we put in. But yes, certainly we will get the ones that are in refreshed.
Lovely. Thanks
as soon as we can. Yep.
Thanks for that commitment. That's really helpful. A couple of connected questions here is, and I think you'll probably say you've addressed some of this, is there any plans to address weeds and bad grass in Pioneer Park? Spring is here. So I think we kind of covered that a bit in your presentation, so I'm going to move on from that. And here we'd appreciate some more details on how it is specifically planned to remove rubble and bits mentioned in the topsoil in Pioneer Park, and also other soil along Greenway in future. If you can briefly mention that at all, Steve.
Yes, as I say, we're coming into quite intensive sort of maintenance season, the growing season. So these will just be hand picked out as they, excuse me, as they come to the surface. Same within the Greenway. A lot of that, if there's any rubble in the topsoil, and this does happen sometimes, you get cross contamination on a site of this size. It will be removed initially and hand picked during the cultivation and sowing. And then subsequently, anything that comes to the surface will be removed through the maintenance of the site, and it's generally hand-picked.
And just one final question before we move on is on the park. This is Pioneer Park on the safety reports. Is such report publicly available, or if not, can it be publicly available?
Yeah, there's nothing to hide at all. No problem with making that available.
Lovely. So if we can perhaps just ask you to perhaps provide that to the team, to John, and we can obviously provide that to anybody who needs that and part of the notes from the meeting. So that's